Good evening and welcome to Election Night in America 2024. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world into the Election Predictions official election center. My name is Ryan Guest, here to bring you a prediction for Texas's United States Senate race in 2024 between incumbent Republican Senator Ted Cruz and his likely Democratic opponent, Congressman Colin Allred. If you missed my Pennsylvania or Montana Senate predictions, you can check those out via the link that will pop up in the top right-hand corner. Now, Colin Allred currently represents Texas's 32nd congressional district in the United States House of Representatives, including the northeastern corner of Dallas, as well as many of its suburbs to the northeast. He announced his candidacy to take on the incumbent Senator Cruz in May of last year, and quickly became the favorite to win the Democratic nomination, picking up endorsements from 3 current U.S. senators, as well as 4 other members of the House. As of the latest campaign finance reports, Allred has raised more than $13.5 million. His closest competition, State Senator Roland Gutierrez, meanwhile, had raised over just $600,000. On the Republican side, one of the most well-known and infamous elected officials in the country, Cruz was first elected to the U.S. Senate in 2012 and is now seeking a third term in the upper chamber. He did unsuccessfully run for the Republican presidential nomination in 2016, despite finishing first in the Iowa caucuses. And although he initially declined to endorse Trump following his primary win, Cruz was a staunch supporter of Trump throughout his presidency and became one of the 7 Republican senators to object to the certification of Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 presidential election. This race in 2024, however, is the first time that he will appear on the same ballot as Trump, most likely, in his political career. And taking a look at his approval rating per Morning Consult's latest quarterly survey, Cruz is in a more popular position in Texas than he was when he first ran for re-election in 2018. His 49% approval rating ranks right in the middle of the pack among all U.S. senators in a tie for 53rd. His net positive approval rating of +7, with just 42% of his constituents disapproving of his job performance, is 8 points higher than it was in February of 2018. When the University of Texas recorded his approval rating at 40% to 41% disapproval. That is, of course, an important data point for the incumbent's chances here in 2024, as we take a look at his previous election results. After first being elected to the Senate by a very comfortable 16-point margin in 2012, 2018 was a startlingly close election for Cruz, as Democratic nominee Beto O'Rourke came within 2.5 points of unseating him, both in part to O'Rourke's popularity and record fundraising totals at the time, as well as Cruz's unpopularity. He did run behind every other Republican on the statewide election ballot in those midterms, and it was the closest Senate race held in Texas since 1978, with O'Rourke giving Democrats their best performance in a statewide election in the Lone Star State since 1990. As for recent presidential results, Donald Trump carried Texas in 2016 and 2020 with similar shares of the vote, 52.2% and then 52.1%. But the margin, of course, became much closer in 2020, as Joe Biden came within 5.6%, as opposed to Hillary Clinton's losing margin of exactly 9 points. Biden improved on Clinton's 2016 vote share by 3.2%, giving him the largest percentage in the state by a Democratic presidential candidate since Jimmy Carter carried the state in 1976. Trump's 5.6% margin of victory was also the narrowest for a Republican since 1996. Texas was the 3rd narrowest of Trump's state victories in the 2020 presidential election, behind only Florida and North Carolina, and it was the 9th closest state overall, marking the first time that Texas had placed in the top 10 closest states since 1968. That being said, despite high hopes among Democrats to potentially flip Texas in the near term, driven by favorable demographic trends and record voter turnout in major urban areas, the 2020 election ultimately proved somewhat disappointing. Competitive polling numbers between Trump and Biden headed into Election Day had fueled Democratic optimism. However, Trump ultimately secured the same vote share as in 2016, dealing a setback to hopes of a blue Texas in the near future. This disappointment was compounded for Democrats by Republicans making gains among Hispanics, who make up roughly 40% of the statewide electorate, particularly in the Rio Grande Valley, which has seen the most substantial pro-Republican shift of any geographic area in the entire country since those 2018 midterms. Taking a look at some 2024 Senate race specific data though, Race to the White House has averaged out the 3 polls surveying this race so far, based on reputability and recency, and Cruz holds a 16-point advantage with 43.5% to Allred's 27.4%. Now, given that those numbers don't add up anywhere close to 100%, it's clear that many voters are still undecided, as Allred is not a household name across the state of Texas just yet, and therefore many voters may not know much about him or his candidacy at this point in time. Still, these are relatively positive numbers for the Cruz re-election campaign. As for race ratings, I have compiled a list of the available 2024 Senate forecasts and predictions for this race in Texas from election analysts across the industry, and all but one currently has it rated as likely Republican. C-Analysis is the lone exception, but their site still favors Republicans with a lean Republican rating. So while this race is considered to be remotely competitive, the consensus among election forecasters is that it does lean strongly in favor of Cruz and the GOP, and would likely take some sort of massive shift for Democrats to have a chance in this race. All of that being said, it is just one of a few states where Democrats will have an opportunity to go on the attack and potentially flip a seat in 2024, as this year's 2024 Senate map is seriously unfavorable for the Democratic Party. They are defending 23 of the 33 Class 1 seats up for election, and 10 of those 23 seats are in states that Biden won by a single-digit margin in the 2020 race. Trump, meanwhile, carried 11 states on this map by double digits, and so given that Republicans are defending so few seats, that already means that the GOP could win 49 seats just by securing the states that Trump had won in 2020 by more than a 10-point margin. Meanwhile, of the 10 states up for election that were decided by less than 10%, Democrats are trying to hold 8 of them. Texas and Florida are the only races decided by single digits in 2020 that Republicans are trying to hold. And then finally, as I touched on earlier, Democrats are facing unlikely odds, trying to hold on to their seats in 3 states that Trump won in 2020 by wide margins: West Virginia, Ohio, and Montana. It's sure to be a suspenseful night here on November 5th, 2024, and the first results out of Texas's U.S. Senate race are now just moments away. It's 8 p.m. on the East Coast, and the polls are closing in all but 2 counties across the state of Texas. Polling locations will remain open in El Paso and Hudspeth counties until 9 p.m. Eastern Time, as they are the only 2 counties in Texas located in the Mountain Time Zone. EP Official has a key race alert coming in right now. 10% of the estimated vote is in out of Texas's marquee Senate race. It's early yet, with most of the more than 1 million votes counted thus far coming out of Democratic vote centers in Houston and around Austin right now. And as expected, Democratic Congressman Colin Allred holds a substantial lead from these first couple dumps of the vote. He's got 56.8% to Republican Senator Ted Cruz's 41.8%. It's a lead of approximately 180,000 votes separating Allred from Cruz right now. Current turnout estimates, however, project a final vote count above 12 million, though, once it's all said and done in Texas. So we've got a long way to go here tonight. Another update out of Texas's U.S. Senate race. As expected, Congressman Colin Allred's early lead has completely dissipated here as the incumbent Republican Senator, Ted Cruz, has taken a lead for the first time in Texas, here with 32% of the estimated vote in. Seeking a third term in Washington, Cruz was favored heavily coming into tonight, leading in most polls by a near double-digit margin. So there's a good chance that this margin only increases as the night goes on, and more of the vote comes in from the predominantly Republican rural areas in Central and North Texas, where, as you can see here via the county results view, we still don't have many results from. The overwhelming majority of counties across the Lone Star State have yet to report any results at all, and most of the vote you see coming in here so far is a combination of both early and election day vote from Houston, Dallas-Fort Worth, and the Austin metro areas. These, along with San Antonio, are the large urban areas containing more than 2/3 of the population of the entire state of Texas, and they do tend to lean Democratic, as urban areas so often do. So it's a good sign for Cruz that a good chunk of the outstanding vote will come from more Republican-friendly areas over the coming 2 hours. It's 9 p.m. Eastern now, and precincts are finally closing in El Paso and Hudspeth counties in southwest Texas. We've been tracking results out of the rest of the Lone Star State over the last hour as it comes in, but our decision desk here at EP Official has not yet made a call, as we have a key race alert coming in right now. Texas's Senate contest is too close to call between Republicans Senator Ted Cruz, the incumbent, and his Democratic challenger, Congressman Colin Allred. An estimated 39% of the vote is in now, and Cruz leads with 50.3% to Allred's 48.5%. Just over 4.5 million votes have been tallied in Texas on the night so far, and the Republican incumbent is leading by 85,000 votes. The GOP has expressed confidence in their ability to take back control of the upper chamber of Congress in Washington tonight. And while this race in particular did not receive a lot of attention in that fight, it is certainly a seat that Republicans will need to hold if things are to go their way across the country. Stay tuned for more results from EP coming up. More than half of the vote is in now out of Texas. Senator Cruz has extended his lead to 188,000 votes. He's got 50.7% of the vote now to the Democratic Congressman Colin Allred's 47.9%. It is perhaps a closer margin at this point in the night than most Republicans may have been hoping for, but Cruz's lead looks increasingly insurmountable, as Allred just is not getting the margins that he needs in key Democratic counties like Harris and Tarrant to pull off the upset. Here we go. EP Official can finally make a projection in Texas. Ted Cruz, the Republican, we project, has been re-elected to a third term in the United States Senate, defeating Democratic Congressman Colin Allred in an expected yet must-win race here. It is a Republican hold as we jump forward to examining the final results. Virtually all of the vote is reporting out of Texas now, and Cruz leads Allred by more than 1 million votes. He has 53.6% to Allred's 45.2%. It's a margin of 8.4%, nearly 6 full points higher than Cruz's victory margin in the 2018 Senate race, as he likely benefits from running during a presidential election year in a Republican-leaning state, as well as the fact that his favorability ratings are notably much higher here in 2024 than they were 6 years ago. Now, some of the outstanding vote may lean more Democratic, as some late-arriving absentee ballots remain uncounted. But let's take another look here, a final look that is, at the county-level results in the Lone Star State. Republicans continue to make gains among the majority Hispanic counties in the Rio Grande Valley, while Allred failed to get the large Democratic turnout bombs in urban areas that he would have needed to stun Cruz and the Republican Party at large here. That does it though for this 2024 election night prediction. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to disagree or leave any comments, questions, or concerns down below. I appreciate feedback regardless of whether it is positive or negative. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, go ahead and click that join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Please make sure to also like the video down below while you're at it, and share the video with friends who you think would enjoy it. I am always immeasurably thankful for your support, and as always, I'll see you next time. Until then, EP out.